All right, so are you ready to dive into some serious geopolitical drama?
Always?
Because today we're looking at the immediate aftermath of Donald Trump's 2024 election victory.
Specifically how Vladimir Putin reacted.
Exactly. You guys sent us this fascinating Sky News article,
That's a
and
good one.
it really is. So let's unpack this thing and see what it might mean for the world.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so right off the bat, the article talks about Putin congratulating Trump on his win.
Yeah.
He even called him courageous and brought up that assassination attempt on Trump back in July.
Mm.
You think that's just standard diplomatic protocol, or is it something more strategic at play here?
Well, you got to remember, Putin is a master of strategy, and he's always thinking a few steps ahead.
Right.
So when he praises Trump's bravery, it's not just empty flattery. He's appealing to Trump's ego.
I see.
Feeding that desire for recognition and respect, especially from powerful figures.
It's almost like he's trying to create a sense of obligation.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, hey, I had your back when others didn't.
And now you owe me one.
Right, and don't forget, the timing of all this, Trump campaigned on ending the Ukraine war in just 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that promise is sending shockwaves through Ukraine, especially for President Zelensky.
I bet he's feeling the pressure.
Absolutely. The article mentions his concern that a rushed peace deal could lead to major losses for Ukraine.
So you've got Putin cozying up to Trump and a very nervous Zelensky watching from the sidelines.
Yeah, it's a tense situation.
So where does Putin really stand on all of this?
Right.
Is he genuinely excited about Trump's return, or is this all just calculated maneuvering?
Well, Sky News correspondent Ivor Bennett, reporting from Moscow, offers some interesting insights.
Okay, what does he say?
He suggests that while Putin's public praise might seem like a warm reunion,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, Russia's probably being a bit more cautious.
Really? Why would that be? I mean, they seemed pretty chummy before.
True, but remember what happened during Trump's first term?
Remind me.
Despite the appearances, sanctions on Russia actually increased under his presidency. Well, that's right.
And the U.S. continued to supply weapons to Ukraine,
So they might not be so sure about Trump Brown, too.
Exactly. They're probably thinking, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice.
Right. So Putin's playing it cool for now, but what about Trump?
Well, the article says he told NBC News that he hasn't spoken to Putin yet.
Since the election.
Yeah, but he expects they will talk soon.
Interesting.
What's even more interesting is that he mentioned speaking to over 70 other world leaders already.
Okay, and what do you make of that?
Well, it could be a subtle signal about his priorities going into this second term.
Like, Russia's not at the top of the list?
Maybe. Or maybe he's trying to project an image of global leadership,
Okay, I can see that.
showing that he's not just focused on Putin.
It's a delicate dance. It really is.
So we've got this Putin-Trump dynamic brewing. What about Zelensky's reaction to all of this?
Well, the article mentions a meeting Zelensky had with Trump at Trump Tower just weeks before the election. And then at a rally right after his victory, Trump publicly complained about continued U.S. aid to Ukraine without a deal to end the war.
That doesn't sound very promising.
No, it definitely suggests some potential friction between them.
Yeah, like they're starting off on the wrong foot.
Exactly, and that could complicate things down the line.
So reading between the lines here, it seems like there's a lot of uncertainty and potential for conflict brewing.
Absolutely. This snapshot right after Trump's victory reveals a web of complex relationships and competing interests.
And it leaves us with a lot of questions.
It really does.
Like, what will happen to U.S.-Russia relations? How will the war in Ukraine play out? And what role will Zelensky play in all of this?
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, well, this is getting really interesting.
Definitely.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to continue our deep dive into this fascinating situation. Feels like we're watching a high-stakes poker game unfold with the fate of nations on the line.
Yeah, it's a great analogy, and the biggest wild card in this whole game is the war in Ukraine.
Right? Trump's campaign promised to end it in 24 hours.
It's a bold statement.
It really is. The article doesn't really explain how he plans to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a magic trick. Poof, war's over.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Without concrete details, how can anyone know if it's even possible?
Right. And even if it is possible, what would the consequences be?
I mean, Zelensky wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of a quick fix.
No, he wasn't, and for good reason.
A rushed peace deal could force Ukraine to make some serious concessions.
Exactly. Imagine having to give up territory or compromise your sovereignty just to fulfill a campaign promise.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
Yeah.
You could end up with more resentment, instability, and even more conflict down the road.
So let's play out some scenarios here. Do you think Trump could actually pull off a peace deal that works for everyone?
It's tough to say. One of the things that makes this so unpredictable is Trump's personality and his track record.
He's definitely not your typical diplomat.
No, he's not. He's not afraid to break the rules and shake things up.
He keeps everyone guessing.
That's one way to put it. And that unpredictability is a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, it could allow him to come up with unconventional solutions.
Ones that other leaders wouldn't even consider.
Right, but on the other hand, it could lead to impulsive actions that backfire spectacularly.
So a lot depends on how Trump chooses to use his power this time around.
Yeah, and whether he's learned any lessons from his first term.
Right. It's not just about Trump, though. Putin and Zelensky are major players in this, too.
Absolutely. They each have their own agendas and strategies.
Zelensky's fighting to protect Ukraine's independence, and Putin's looking for any opportunity to expand Russia's influence.
It's like a geopolitical chess match.
It is. Which brings up another question. What leverage does each leader have?
Yeah, what are their strengths and weaknesses in this high-stakes game?
For instance, does Putin really see Trump as an ally he can trust?
Or is he just manipulating him to get what he wants?
Good question. Remember what Ivor Bennett said?
About Russia being wary of Trump.
Yeah, because of how he handled sanctions and arms deals during his first presidency.
Exactly. Putin might be skeptical of Trump's true intentions.
Wondering if he can really be counted on to act in Russia's best interests.
It's like they're both trying to read each other's minds.
Trying to figure out who's bluffing and who's holding the winning hand?
It's a tense situation for sure.
Everyone's walking on eggshells trying not to make a wrong move.
That's the nature of international relations, especially when the stakes are this high.
And the stakes really couldn't be higher. The war in Ukraine has already caused so much devastation and instability.
What happens next could determine the fate of an entire region.
It's a sobering thought. The outcome of this situation could have far-reaching consequences.
For global security, economic stability, even the future of democracy itself.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. But by breaking down these complex relationships and exploring the potential outcomes,
Maybe we can start to make sense of it all.
and hopefully understand what the future might hold.
I think that's what we're all hoping for.
That's what we're trying to do here. Provide you with the information and context you need to navigate these turbulent times.
And to empower you to think critically and form your own opinions about these important events. We want to leave you with some thought-provoking questions to ponder on your own.
That's the goal.
We'll be right back to continue our deep dive. We're back, and the anticipation is killing me. What's Trump going to do now that he's back in the Oval Office?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We can analyze his past moves, his campaign promises, but the truth is Trump thrives on unpredictability.
Right. It makes it almost impossible to predict his next move.
Almost.
But the article did mention that he expects to speak with Putin soon.
Ah, yes, that conversation. That'll be a key moment.
Right. It could really set the tone for their relationship during this second term.
And give us some clues about how he plans to approach Russia and the war in Ukraine.
Okay, so imagine you're a fly on the wall for that call.
Okay.
What do you think they'd be talking about?
Well, the war in Ukraine would obviously be the main course. I imagine Trump would double down on his campaign promise of a quick resolution.
That 24-hour deadline.
Exactly, maybe even pushing for a specific timeline. And Putin would probably be trying to get some concrete details.
See how serious Trump is about that deadline and what he'd be willing to concede to get it done.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes negotiation.
Absolutely. And what about the sanctions that have been hitting Russia's economy pretty hard?
Ah, yes, the sanctions.
Do you think Trump would offer any relief?
Well, that's another potential sticking point. Trump's stance on sanctions has always been a bit of a mystery.
How so?
He's criticized them publicly, but he also kept them in place and even escalated them during his first term.
So it's hard to know which way he'll go this time.
It really is. So yeah, we're basically in a giant guessing game right now.
With no easy answers.
Nope. But that's what makes this so fascinating and a little scary, too.
Right. There's just so many unknowns.
So many potential paths this could take, each with its own risks and rewards.
The possibility of both cooperation and conflict.
It's all on the table. It's like a high-stakes poker game where the fate of nations is at stake.
Each player trying to outsmart the other.
While also keeping their own people and the international community in check.
And the stakes couldn't be higher? The war in Ukraine has already caused so much suffering and instability.
It's a tragedy, and the decisions made in the coming weeks and months could either escalate things further
or create a path towards lasting peace.
It's a huge responsibility for these leaders. The weight of history is on their shoulders.
And their choices will impact us all.
But it's not just about the leaders.
Right. we, the people watching this unfold, we have a role to play too.
We have to stay informed, engage in meaningful discussions about these issues, and hold our leaders accountable.
We can't just sit back and be passive observers.
Exactly. We need to be critical thinkers, question everything, and form our own opinions based on facts and evidence.
And remember, the future is not set in stone.
It's shaped by the choices we make both individually and collectively.
Our voices and our actions can make a difference.
They really can.
This deep dive has been quite a journey.
It has.
But I hope it's given you a lot to think about and a deeper understanding of this complex situation.
We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully we've sparked your curiosity to learn more.
The story is still unfolding, so stay engaged, stay informed, and keep asking questions.
It's the best way to navigate these uncertain times.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another exploration of a topic that matters to you.